Hey, what's up, Lightbolt Joe here. Today we are going to discuss the 2021 book by Casey McQuiston, One Last Stop. So this is the follow-up to her Red, White, and Royal Blue. What was that, 2019? I'm just going to grab the book, which is right next to me. Check the page where the copyright info is, because I can't remember. May 2019, there we go. So this came out in 2021. It has nothing to do with Red, White, and Royal Blue. This is a completely different book. This is a sophomore book, right? So this is sci-fi, it's time travel, roughly. There's a major plot hole, which I still can't get out of my head, even though, yes, I'm aware it's a sci-fi book, it involves time travel, but there's a thing we're going to discuss. Spoilers throughout. I love this book, right? I truly love this book. Representation matters on tenfold. The whole alphabet is represented. We have a lesbian couple right here. Well, technically, Jane, or Biu Su, is or Su Biu, is gay, and then August is bisexual, right? But then you have trans representation within Nico's character. Mila, I think, is Mila pansexual? Wes is pansexual? I don't remember. So many different letters of the alphabet are represented, and it's beautiful, and it's a found family, and the six of them at the end riding in the car together. Isaiah, Wes, Nico, Mila, Milu, and August and Jane, all of them together. It's just so beautiful having the found family together. That family doesn't have to be blood. It can be who you find. Found family. Love it. Love it, love it, love it. So this is a story taking place in 2021. August, who is a student, has been traveling a bunch, going to different schools, trying to find her place, finds an apartment within Brooklyn to finish out, her schooling, right? So she's gone to different schools, right? She originally grew up in New Orleans, or just outside of New Orleans, at New Orleans. And so her mom has been on an investigative hunt to try to find her brother, whose name is August. They reference him as Augie. Her name is Suzette, goes by Susie. So Susie and Augie, right? Augie's been missing since, 71? Something like that? 1970, early 1970s. And she doesn't know if he's alive. She doesn't know if he's dead. Can't figure it out, right? So she's been finding different trails, and missing persons investigations have gone cold and all these things. But she got her daughter, named after her uncle August, taught her how to pick locks and taught her how to sway people at a very young age, all these different things. They don't talk to the grandparents because they're rich, snobby New Orleans folk, and wants nothing to do with August's mom, or her for that matter, or so we thought. So there's family drama. So then August gets to Brooklyn, and she meets Jane on the train. Jane Bayou, right? Biu Su. And so Jane is her preferred name at some points. Birth name is Biu, but then she winds up going back to Biu at the end of the story. So why is Jane always on the Q train, right? Always on the Q, the subway train Q. Why? Why is she always wearing the same clothes? So as the story progresses, we find out that Jane can't leave, and she's lost in time. Somehow she got trapped, and she thinks it's 1977, but it's not. So what happened? How did she get stuck on the train? And as the story progresses, the investigation continues, and we find out that because of the New York City blackout in 1977, Jane was saving her friend / co-worker Jerry at Pancake Billy's House of Pancakes, which they worked at, and which August works at, conveniently. Jerry had thrown up on the tracks, and he fell, and Jane wound up throwing him back over the tracks, but inadvertently stumbled and landed on the third rail as the blackout happened. So there was a surge of electricity. There's a lot of electrical current conversations in this. They bring the science to it, which is very neat, having the different characters mingle and talk about it. So they're trying to figure out how to reverse it, how to make a new surge similar to the blackout of 1977, to the New York City blackout, July of 1977, to then bring her either back to 1977, or option one, have her finally cross over, because she's not technically dead, but she's still there because they can touch her, right? Her and August have sex throughout the train numerous times. Or can they bring her to 2021? Keep her physically in the plane that she is actually in? Options. So there's this whole drag fundraiser to save Billy's, in one of the train stations, which is a pretty awesome scene. Figuring out the heist, how to manipulate the electric current, blow the circuits within the train station. So cool. The surge happens, Jane then disappears, right? After August realizes that she herself is electric as well. The two of them are needed to create the surge to send Jane back. So the surge happens. August sees some things, flashes of 77, San Francisco, California, where Sue Bayou is originally from, BU is originally from. But 3 months go by, and they think that they sent Jane actually back to 77 because they don't see her. Jane eventually shows up to Billy's after August, gets her dead grandmother's $15,000 inheritance to push over the limit to buy Billy's of the $100,000 that they actually needed. Very intricate stuff going on of, aside from trying to save Jane, what is happening within her actual life in general. Very neat. Intermingling everything together. Jane and August then, share many a months of romance and bliss, and then it's the 6 of them in the apartment, but Wes also is at Isaiah's, who's across the hall, all intermingling, and then finding August graduating college, figuring out she wants to do PI stuff, basically, to find people that have been lost. So she finds Jane's family, those that are still alive, what they're doing, what they're up to, who they're married to, and then they are planning a Christmas trip to California where August's mom can actually meet Jane finally, BU finally. That way they can meet her Uncle Augie's ex-boyfriend who has Jane's records. That's the other thing. So there was the whole thing of that Augie, as in August's Uncle Augie, Suzette's brother August, was a roommate of Jane's back in New Orleans back in 1973. And there was this whole arson attack at one of the gay bars, the Upstairs, that's not mentioned at all ever within history. But it was presumed that Augie died in that fire, but he actually missed his shift, and then he realized he can't be in that area because all of his friends are dead, that he can't be in that area. So he does a crime spree throughout the country, settles into California, changes his name, sends Jane a postcard in 1976 to her location in Brooklyn, asking her to come, visit him. And then, Jane sends her records there, but that's the day she's supposed to leave. The day after she's supposed to leave, she inadvertently falls on the third rail and is trapped to the queue for 45-something years. So it's interesting because this is where the plot flaw comes in. August has Augie's pocket knife, right? I don't have a pocket knife near me, but August has Augie's pocket knife. August's mom, Suzette, gave August Augie's pocket knife. We following that? As a gift. Augie used to write Suzette many, many a times, 73 up to 75, something like that, whatever. But he kept writing, but he never got anything back. So we then found out that their parents stopped forwarding the mail and just had a box of all of his letters and stuff in the attic. And they didn't discover it until after, she passed and they would settle the estate. So how the hell did August's mom, Suzette, have Augie's knife that Jane is well aware of? Jane knows that that's August's knife. That August's knife is her Uncle Augie's knife, right? So if Jane and Augie were roommates in 73, how did the knife get to Suzette if the mail was cut off? If the mail was not, therefore, given to her from her brother, how? Did he send it in a gray area between when they were still giving her mail and when they stopped giving her mail? Possibly, but it's too far-fetched, because that is the true focal point of when Jane finally realizes, oh my God, you're actually the niece of my past roommate from 1973, and he's been missing all this time. What happened? So it's a plot flaw, and I'm very much the animated gif of Dr. Sheldon Cooper screaming, "I don't need sleep, I need answers," because that's the main focal point of how Jane finally comes back to herself and says, my roommate is your uncle. Ah, I know that knife. Everything else was wonderful, right? Wonderful. Found family, alphabet representation, all the beautiful aspects of the queer community, right? But it's this stupid knife that throws me off. within the plot point. Yes, it's the gray area. I understand as I'm speaking it out loud. The gray area that's not mentioned, but you have to think about it and stress about it to figure it out. At some point in between when his mail was not what was being delivered to his sister, assuming he sent her his knife and it was actually given to her, and then the mail was cut off because of the box of letters and stuff in the attic, right? Okay, fine. I'm stretching the hell out of it, but I shouldn't have had to stretch the hell out of it. It should have just been black and white. Everything else is there. The timelines are there. 73 and Augie eventually passed away in a car accident when he was 29 in California, and his ex-boyfriend still has Jane's records. All of those things, right? It's all laid out in front of us. If everything else was so meticulously planned and plot pointed out, why was the most important thing, the pocket knife of Augie's, brushed over? It hurts my soul. I love Casey. I have 2 of her 3 books that are published so far. I have the other one I need to get. I have a long list of books that I have to get through, though, before we get to that. I also have so many Goosebumps books that I have to get through, which I inadvertently created a list of myself of things to do within the Halloween season. I don't think I'll be able to read them all, but we'll see what 2023 brings. Anyway, amazing author, right? This is one of my all-time favorite books. Red, White, and Royal Blue is just incredible, incredible. And this one is an incredible book as well, minus that plot flaw that I will never let go of. But Casey is an incredible author. The way that they put words together to give the whole how do I even like reference things? It's so hard to like summarize something certain. The very last 2 pages is like a letter from Jane to August that, you know, she eventually finds in her pocket as they're on the bus to San Francisco. But it's an essay, but it's a letter, and it's a love letter, and it's just so gorgeously crafted. August is a time, a place, and a person. And 3 paragraphs of why August is a time, a place, and a person. And I have chills just reminiscing of it. I literally have goosebumps because of how eloquently that Casey had put that into words. They're just so talented with writing. I'm obsessed with how they write. Red, White, and Royal Blue is absolutely incredible. So I knew that I was going to love One Last Stop because I'm a fan of the author. And I know that I'm going to love the 3rd book because I'm a fan of the author. Despite the major plot flaw of the knife, fine. I'll take it because this author is incredible. I need everyone to read their books. I don't know. I don't have any other words. That's the thing. Casey can put words to things. I can't put words to things anymore because of how talented they actually are. Man, more talent in their right pinky than I have in my entire body. That's just the best way to put it. So, One Last Stop by Casey McQuiston. An incredible book, minus that one singular flaw. What are your thoughts on that? I know it's a gray area. It's inferred. It's not labeled straightforward, but representation matters. Revolution is upon us. On to the next review. Mucho mahalo.